Yeah, Facebook. All right. I'll let you know once it's live. I should be able to.
It says live on the top for me, but
Let's see. It's not yet. Not yet. Wait. Redirecting. Hold on 1 second. All right. I think we're ready, Steve.
already.
Yeah, I think it's already live.
Okay, so welcome everybody to our weekly bi-weekly presentation on accounting and law. My name is Stephen Fairchild, and my partner here is Yulin Lee. I'm an attorney, and he's an accountant. So today I'm going first, and I'm going to talk about what I refer to as the intellectual property minefield. This is sort of an introduction for entrepreneurs who are thinking about, or even first-time inventors. What are what's involved with protecting your intellectual property rights. So that's the level that I'll be discussing at. Obviously, there's an advanced version of this that I could do, but I won't be doing that today. So, and also this is based on a presentation I used to do a while ago. I'm going to be doing the first half of it today, and the next half will be probably next week. And this is just entirely about patents today, but the next following weeks will be about trademarks and copyrights. So let's begin. So that's my short bio. I had an intellectual property legal career at the big firms in New York, and went on my own a couple years ago and been helping a lot of entrepreneurs. So there are four basic areas of intellectual property: patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. And today we'll be doing patents. So a couple common questions I get from people. What are the benefits of an IP portfolio? What are the steps, timeline, and cost of having one? Do I need a license? And the short answer to, at least do I need a license is, well, you might need, maybe. You should talk to an attorney, let them figure it out. And the steps and timeline costs, well, uh, there's it's a myriad of different things. Every patents and trademarks and copyrights, they all have their own steps and timeline, and of course costs. But the benefits of protecting it, your IP portfolio really is your business. So if you don't protect it, then you could lose business. Especially if you come up with something unique or your customer list, that those go under trade secrets. There's a lot of if you protect your IP portfolio, you will protect your business, and if you don't, then you might sink it. So um, it looks a little weird. Sorry, apologize for that. But patent basics. So what is a patent? And so a patent is a monopoly um, that's granted by the government in exchange for the total disclosure of your invention. So it covers inventions, and that must be a physical object. So people say like, I have this great idea, or I have a great app that I could do. Well, if you don't really have that yet, then if it's not tangible, you haven't really invented it yet. So just because you have an idea for something doesn't mean you have an invention yet. And um, or if you want to patent, people say, can I patent this logo? Well, no, you can't patent a logo, but you can trademark your logo. These are things that I hear from people a lot. Um, so, okay, so this confuses people all the time. So patent is actually not a right to do your own product. It's actually a right to prevent other people from copying your invention. So how does that work? Does that make any sense? So like just because you have something unique, someone else might have patents that cover the individual parts of your invention. So you might need a license from them to do your own invention. So just because you have all these unique parts of that, all you can do is prevent people from copying that unique assembly of what you have. but doesn't grant you the right to do it yourself. So here's a great example. So Bill Gates, they come up with, he has a new computer or whatever. And I create a great software to use on his computer. Does that mean that I can block people from, or does that mean like I have a right to use my software? Well, no, you still need to buy the computer pieces from Bill Gates, from Microsoft. So you have to essentially take a license from them to do that. So it's just kind of this weird way of thinking about it, but it's just because you have a patent does not mean you automatically have the right to use it. So general patent terminology, we have a utility patent, which goes to the object itself, and these are usually have the greatest value, economically, financially, and stuff. So you can also have method of use patents, a method of doing a business. They're kind of like cutting down on those, but it's common to be able to use something that we call a method of use patents. So here's an example from chemistry and stuff. So a utility patent would cover like the compound. If you have a brand new compound, and any use of that will is covered by the utility patent. But if you have like a doctor comes along in 10 years and says, oh, well, hey, if we have this compound and we put it, if we give a person a dose of this like every 2 weeks at 50 milligrams, it's a great treatment for, I'm just throwing this out there, it's a great psychiatric drug or something. I don't know. That the second stuff I discussed would be a method of use patent. You would still need to have permission from the first patent holder who actually came up with the compound to use it later on. And that's what I'm talking about, that just because you have a patent, you still need permission from somebody else who might have a claim to the parts of your invention. And finally, we also have what's called design patents. And design patents just cover solely the ornamentation of the product. They have like they're not supposed to have any functional use. So a lot of today, iPads, iPhones, like the shapes of those things, a lot of them are covered by design patents. So this kind of goes back to like the timeline and cost to get a patent. So the average, what's called the prosecution time, is about 3 years. And if you're willing to pay some fees, you can do it faster. And the average patent duration is 17 years on average. So if your prosecution takes longer, then your patent duration will be a little bit less and stuff, but and how much does it cost? I tell people, be willing to spend at least $5,000 to get certainly a utility patent. And even if you get a patent granted, you still might have to pay maintenance fees to the patent office. And those aren't a whole lot of money, but they do exist. A common question I get is, can I get an international patent? And the answer is, well, no. You can get a US patent, and that's only valid in the United States. But the caveat here, and this is what I think people are trying to, what people hear about, and it kind of confuses them, is what's called an international patent application. And that's really just a common paper trail between America and say Europe, and it's just kind of it's just a common application process. But really, what you want, you can, if you have a U.S. patent, that's only valid in the United States. And likewise, if someone has a Europe patent or Great Britain patent, that has no value here in the United States in terms of economic value. So another common question is, do I need a prototype? The answer is probably, and 90% of the time, yes, you do, but it's not entirely accurate. And to really explain why, it's kind of like more of an advanced question. And it also depends on the technology we're talking about too. But like if you have the more sophisticated the technology, the more likely you'll need a prototype. But I tell people it's good to have a prototype because once you, by doing that, you realize the improvements to the drawbacks in a prototype, and you figure out ways that can be done better, and those are good things to have. And okay, so another thing about patents, you must be the first inventor, and in America that means you also have to be the first person to file the patent office, or your patent application to the patent office. Um, we used to have this system in place where you could fight to be the first inventor, even if you're the second filer, but they changed the law. And a common thing you absolutely must be aware of is what's called prior art. And so prior art is, everything that's publicly known about anything, and also your patent will be evaluated in terms of what's called a prior art. So every publication, every public use, every sale, that goes into figuring out if you will get a patent or not. And so people, of course, will want to hide it if they've been selling this thing, their product for 5 years, and they don't tell me, well, that's one thing. But like, you have to tell the patent office if you've been selling your product for 5 years before you decide to file it for a patent. Otherwise, you can get into big trouble. So here's a common business strategy in patents. So if the prior art is too close to your idea, what you can do is you can design around it. And this is why I tell people to make prototypes, because you can figure out what's the drawbacks, and also it helps you sort of design around if other prior art that's around. You can take a license from the patent holder. So again, this goes back to just because you have a brand new idea, and even if you get a patent on it, doesn't mean you can do your invention. If it's very close to someone else's patent, but not even if it's not the same, they could still sue you for patent infringement. So you might want to talk to them to get a license. And you can always challenge the competitor's patent in court. They call them declaratory judgments. You actually sue them to have their patent invalidated, but you really need to be a competitor to do that. And this is something I tell people all the time. It always comes up. Do not publish your patent, or do not publish your trade secrets. Do not do any of that unless you're ready to patent. Get that patent on file. You've got to do that. Do not do any sales, and you've got to talk to patent attorney and get that where you've done all the hard work to develop a great idea and have this great invention. Protect it, and one of the worst ways to not protect it is to just tell the world about it, or publish it, or go on or start selling it without having a patent application on file. And the reason is because that might actually bar you from getting a patent down the road. And so kind of like what I was talking about, so you want to file with the patent office as soon as possible, because the prior art is always increasing. And today was more than yesterday. It's going to be worse tomorrow. But also, if you want to design around, you might need some development time. And this is why I tell a lot of people to use what's called a provisional application. It puts everything you have right together now, and it gives you 1 year to kind of put together a non-provisional. A provisional is not examined. It just sort of protects your rights for the next year. And in that time, you can develop your ideas. You can get funding from investors, and while your patent is actually protected. Okay. So I thought I was going to page 14, but we're up to page 12. The rest is copyright, trademark stuff. I'm going to save that for another day. So this just covers the patent basics. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. But beyond that, I'll turn it back over to you, Johan.
Yeah, hi. So anybody, if you guys have questions, please use Zoom, chat, or use the online and some questions. I think there's one question that
Sure.
People can confuse is that if you file a US patent, but that doesn't mean that you're protected everywhere, right? So that's simply in the US. So once you got the patent, but if you do want to, want to protect it like in Europe, you had to file individually in each
Right.
block.
So this isn't my area of expertise. I've never done one before, and I think they're very expensive. But you can file an international patent application, and those are called PCTs.
Right.
And that gives you the chance to file a patent in the United States, to Europe, Japan, whatever. But like these things cost like $10,000, and you still have to file in each individual countries. So most people just, like certainly the people I deal with, they have no interest in that. They just want an American patent.
Right.
They're here, so they. But yeah, just because you have a patent here doesn't mean you can. It has no value by itself in other countries. That said, there are other countries that look to an American patent to decide if they should have a patent in their country. So they they kind of like leech off of us that they assume that the American patent system is very thorough, and they don't have the funds or desire to have a thorough examination in those countries. So they just kind of look to see what America did. And this is what I've heard. I don't have any specific examples. I think it happens in Latin America. The Latin American countries they might just grant a patent locally based on the fact that there's one already established in the United States.
Yeah. Hey, Steve, there's one question came from Robert Whitmore.
Sure.
Hi, Robert. Good to see you. And he said, Steve, is IP a practice area you're comfortable supporting?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've done a lot of intellectual property work, and yeah, and it's been the bulk of my legal career. And in the last couple of years, I transitioned from doing exclusively IP stuff to entrepreneurs and helping people set up businesses. But because it is sort of wait, I see another question here. But anyway, yeah. So those are my roots, but I branched out because like I see the bigger problems that people have, and I want to help a business out as much as I can.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, I just responded to Robert.
Okay.
Follow up.
Yes,
we'll go through that.
Yes, hey, something about taxes, so I would have to leave that to you. I don't know much. I'm not the specialist.
Yeah. Well, if there was no more questions, we're going to move to the session. I'm going to talk about the tax savings and stuff like that. So let me switch over to my screen. We get started. Steve, let me know once you see it. All right.